to the show. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. You were fumbling with the radio, and that's what you found. Don't change it down. Stay right there. You never know. We may say something that might even help you. It happens all the time. Glad you could stop by design or by accident. I don't care. We enjoy being here with you, sharing with you cutting-edge research, the science and health, wellness, and well-being. Share with you traditional use findings and data from cultures across the world for hundreds and even thousands of years. We look at those kinds of phenomena. Wherever I can find some verification for whatever's being asserted about any particular therapy or some aspect of health, wellness, and well-being, I'll root for it and look for it. Root around. And we are coast to coast, and we are global. We stream out and we stream in. You can visit letstalknutrition.com if you want to catch that. So we invite you always to connect with the show. Communication is about connection, at least that. And we have any number of ways for you to connect. Here's a rundown on that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was doing some bad, trying to fix something on the feed real quick. 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255. Or locally at 813-636-8255. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on LTN Radio, on Twitter. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Let's Talk Nutrition, where everything is archived and closed captioned on there and up to date as the day goes by. So right now we're up to date, and we put everything in playlist too. So if there's
explain what that.
So if there's a specific product that we talked about on the show or a specific company, you could go through our playlist and look at it on the YouTube channel, which helps you go back and look for what we've been talking about lately. So, and I've done that almost did that for the whole year. So we're getting that caught up too.
Good. Very good. We got it covered. Social media, unsocial media, wherever people exist, we try to find them. Yeah, because your health, I end the show every day, your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you. Those are not throwaway lines. Those have great meaning to me. And when you become ill and your health is challenged, and maybe even your life because of health issues, everything changes, doesn't it? Many of you know that from your experience, your own personal experience. Those who haven't had that experience, it's sort of in the abstract. And there's just nothing I can tell you until you're there. And then you'll know. And everything does change. And I look today, Dr. Kate Roam will be on. She's an educator for Natural Factors. Speaking of companies, that's a darn good company, Canadian company, been around a long time. And they manufacture dietary supplements. They don't just market them.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? The difference is there are companies that are marketing companies masquerading as supplement companies. They don't make anything. It's made for them. You look on the box, it says made for, not made by. Okay.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
It's a darn big thing. I mean, how much control do you have over the product? Some companies control it from seed to shelf. Natural Factors is one of those companies. CV Sciences, makers of CDB oil, is another. There are several companies that do that. Now, Natural Factors even has its own farms. Now, they don't. Not everything comes from that they have in the marketplace comes from their farms.
Right.
So they don't necessarily control every product from seed to shelf, but darn close from manufacturing anyway to the shelf. And when you control the product that way, the integrity, you're more inclined to have a product that is of quality, assuming the company's a good company. Now, there are very few companies like that. Some of these supplement companies are, if you go on the internet, my gosh.
Because of cost, right? Is that why they do it?
Thousands and thousands of companies. And they're looking to sell you offline cheap supplements, cheap in price and cheap in quality. To make dietary supplements is not an inexpensive thing to do. And when a company can offer a particular supplement that, like making fish oil, that's not easy. It's work, it's intensive and financially costly. So you start to wonder, say, how could they offer that at such a low price? Well, it's the raw material. And then how they manufacture it, they cut corners. So I try to point that out on the show, that make that a feature of the show. Here and there, wherever I can work it in, like just now, spontaneously I worked it in because Gary asked. And it's an important point. After all, people are putting these things inside their body. You're not buying a hat.
Well, it's funny because you say that. I didn't know, like, tires have a manufacture date on them, and they just leave them on the shelf until somebody buys them. And the other day we were at a store, and you were telling me about shelf life, and I learned about shelf life on stuff. And I didn't know that even the supplements and pills have shelf life.
Shelf life. And some are made to have extended shelf life, and then that means they're introducing chemicals to make that happen.
Which is preservatives then, right?
Yeah, preservatives. Lots of sodium sometimes, whatever techniques that they have. And you have to look at, there's a lot of information on a label. A lot. It's amazing. The thing that drives me crazy now, they have so much information, they make the print so small, I don't care if you're Superman or woman, you can't read it. You need a magnifying glass. And for the elderly or for people who have eyesight problems, it's impossible to read those labels. They're not consumer friendly.
I think we should do a show just on reading labels because I've
done shows on that.
You did. We spent like 5 hours you showing me at one of the stores on how to read labels, and I was.
There's an article. I wrote an article. It's on my website on how to read labels. What's on a label? Not long ago. It's up there.
Yeah.
That site is under construction. We left the site open. So it's it's a little chaotic at the moment, but as time goes on, it'll get all squared away. I didn't want to shut it down. We're rearranging things and reorganizing, but we kept it open. Under construction, traffic still goes by.
Not going one lane, but it goes by, Doc.
It goes by. I alluded to the elderly. There's a concept called ageism. ISM-ism. Anytime something ends with an ism, it's not good. Racism, sexism, right? There's such a thing as ageism. The story was trending this morning, an article written by Anna Sandulu, giving her attribution, how fighting ageism may lower dementia risk. Now, sometimes people practice ageism on themselves. They discriminate against themselves. They start thinking in negative ways about being elderly. You shouldn't do that. Don't need to do that. Come back, we'll talk about that. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, coast to coast and globally.
I'm Joy McCarthy, holistic nutritionist, and I expect more from my multivitamin. I've researched many vitamins, and what's truly different about Every Woman's One Daily from New Chapter is that it's fermented with probiotics and whole foods and gentle even on an empty stomach. Every Woman's One Daily helps you feel good every day, giving you immune, energy, and stress support, and nutrients for bone and heart health. You will notice a difference. Every Woman's One Daily recently won the Best Multivitamin Award, and I love that it's non-GMO project verified. Discover the wisdom of nature with New Chapter.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in today.
You get lost in the prep, you know?
I do get lost in it. People think you just walk in and key the mic. No, there's a lot goes on.
How many articles do you think you read every morning before we go on show? Before we do the show?
It starts the day before, at night, too. I start at night, Gary. It depends. Sometimes it'll be a half a dozen, sometimes less, sometimes more. Depends on how much I know about the topic.
Right.
This topic, ageism, is one that is of great concern. I know my share about this. I have experienced it more than a few people listening and watching have experienced it as well. And of course, ageism is not a good thing. It is a form of discrimination that, it's prejudice or discrimination on the basis of a person's age.
I've been with you when we went through this.
This happens in the workplace. It goes on in the workplace. It goes on in society and how the elderly are treated. It's just remarkable the attributions people make relative to the elderly and how they treat them. Nevertheless, this article and your belief system, in other words, ageism is based, any prejudice is built on a set of beliefs, a belief system. A belief is what you consider to be true or false. I believe values are also involved, what is right and wrong, and your attitudes, what you like and don't like. But nevertheless, people can hold certain beliefs about being elderly that really discriminate against themselves. And this connection between the mind and the body becomes into play here with this theme. This new study suggests that beliefs that people will embrace about old age will influence their risk of developing dementia, even if they were genetically predisposed to it already. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There's a gene, it's called ApoE, A-P-O, capital E. And that many of the researchers in this space on dementia consider that to be the primary genetic risk factor in late onset Alzheimer's. What's interesting, some people carry this gene, but not even one or two copies. Not everyone with one or two copies of the gene will develop Alzheimer's.
That's what Reagan had, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, you can have the gene, but it doesn't express. Now, others carry the ApoE gene, one or two copies, and it expresses. Well, why is that? And the researchers are trying to sort through that. In this article by Anna Sandalou, she points out that, in fact, less than half of those with this genetic predisposition are actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. This study was published in the journal PLOS 1. That means Public Library of Science 1. It is a highly prestigious journal. So the question becomes, why do the remaining 53% not exhibit dementia or specifically Alzheimer's? And this study was led by Dr. Becky Levy from the Yale School of Public Health in New Haven, Connecticut. And the new research, they said, investigates the first time whether environmental and therefore modifiable. If it's environmental, it's modifiable. If it's genetic, it's not modifiable. Factors such as beliefs around aging can influence the risk of developing dementia. In other words, what you believe can have an impact on your biology. Beliefs and biology, what's in your mind, can then begin to influence your biology, generally, specifically, your genes and whether particular genes may express or not. I know that sounds like a stretch and very abstract to many, but the data are what the data are. I can report. I can't necessarily explain, neither can the researchers oftentimes, why this is. Mind-body connection is formidable. Dr. Levy and her colleagues looked at 4,765 people who did not have dementia at the beginning of their study. 91% of the participants were Caucasian. As many as 26% of them had an E4 variant of that gene, ApoE. That's the variant that's most associated with Alzheimer's. The people in the study were at least 60 years of age, and they were all recruited from the Health and Retirement Study. Those were the data. Their attitudes, they said in the article, toward age were associated with a subscale of the Philadelphia Geriatric Center Morale Scale. I'm just giving you a sense of how this was a well-done study. You're picking that up. The questionnaire included items such as, quote, the older I get, the more useless I feel, close quote. And person would, yes or no, true or false, whatever. And they go through the questionnaire. When we come back, I'll tell you what they found. Now, again, ageism can be practiced by others. Their beliefs and attitudes about the elderly. And then, of course, as individuals, how our beliefs and attitudes about aging can affect what happens to us. It's almost like a form of self-discrimination. If you have a certain belief system about being elderly that is not very optimistic or positive, you're putting yourself at risk. I'll come back and I'll give you the bottom line on this study.
The perfect complement to your beauty regimen? Try Form Essentials Zinnia. The finest of its kind, Zinnia offers twice as much biotin as other formulas, which has proven to unlock the vibrancy in even the dullest of hair, skin, and nails. Zinnia breaks through and rejuvenates cells internally, helping you achieve the allure of effortless beauty. Reviving your hair, skin, and nails has never been easier. This essential blend of biotin, alpha-lipoic, and hyaluronic acid, collagen, and vitamin C creates lasting enhancements to your natural good looks. Don't go on wondering. You're worth the results. This combination of ingredients can only be found in Zinnia. Pamper yourself with a proven bit of affordable luxury and start looking your best. Ask for Zinnia by name at your nearest vitamin retailer to begin your journey to restored nails, head-turning hair, and radiant skin today. For more information, visit formessentials.com.
When your alarm goes off, do you jump out of bed with excitement? Or does it take multiple alarms, a few snooze buttons, or a morning caffeine fix to get you going? These habits and daily stress cause a vicious cycle in which sleep becomes increasingly elusive. In fact, 54% of Americans report struggles to fall or stay asleep. For a better night's rest, look no further than Solace, an all-natural dietary supplement that supports healthy sleep and relaxation, so you get the rest you need to wake up clear-eyed, alert, and ready for the day. Solace has given thousands a better night's rest and the power to take back their mornings while enjoying the day ahead of them. Solace is formulated with non-addictive, scientifically proven, all-natural ingredients that support sleep and relaxation, such as melatonin, tryptophan, and 5-HTP. For more information or to order Solace, visit TakeSolace.com. Solace, for healthy sleep naturally.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing. Talking about this new study on the relationship between ageism and its effect on whether the gene for Alzheimer's or dementia will express. Dr. Levy, this is her line of research. I found a study she did back in 2002. In that study, she found that ageism, that the older adults who held negative views about old age faced life expectancies that were on average 7.5 years shorter than those of their peers. Dr. Levy did that study back in 2002. This is a current one that she's done. Here, what she found is that in this current study, among the participants in the study who had the ApoE4 genetic variant, which is for dementia, Alzheimer's, those people who had positive beliefs holding that gene had nearly a 50% less likely chance to develop dementia compared to those with negative attitudes about age. My goodness. To say that's statistically significant is an understatement. And when I was doing my PhD work and taking all those research methods courses and stat courses, I remember my one professor who was like a mentor to me would always say to the class, just because something's statistically significant doesn't mean it's of any practical importance. Here, it's not only statistically significant, but it is of major practical importance. 50% less likely, even though they have the gene, they're 50% less likely to express for that gene if their attitudes are positive about aging. The explanation that the authors of the study give is that holding negative attitudes is a stressor. That's an interesting hypothesis in and of itself. And the stress will exaggerate or otherwise then cause the gene to express. Whereas positive attitudes tend to attenuate the effects of stress and may not even inspire stress. This is interesting. I don't know if you've ever had conversations with someone who's elderly and listened to and how they talk about it. In the way that self-talk and when they're expressing their attitudes, or when they're sharing that with you, or what they're saying to themselves, based on this piece of research and other studies, has great meaning and great bearing on what can happen to a person. So being optimistic and positive about aging is part of successful aging, as I have written and given talks and speeches about that topic. My guest today is Dr. Roham. She is an educator for natural factors. I find her to be optimistic and positive. It comes across many times now. She's been on the show. I've never met her in person, but you make a connection to people, the audience, and to the guests. It's amazing. Dr. Roham, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you so much. Good to be back.
What do you make of this study that positive age beliefs can reduce the risk of a person of the most established genetic risk factors for dementia? What do you make of that?
You know what? I find that just echoes similar results in a number of different areas about perception and attitude and its profound effect on our health at the cellular level. I've just been looking at research, and actually what was on my mind today was telomeres, which is a great measure of our biological age, and there are studies that show that if you have a positive perception and you can perceive your stress in a positive way, and I mean that sounds glib, but we can get into the details, but that you will age slower. It actually seems to slow the aging process itself, and there are lots and lots of studies that echo this in different aspects of health.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Bruce Lipton?
Yes.
He wrote the book The Biology of Belief.
Yes, right.
Yeah, that's worth a read. It is. He's an interesting guy, and the book it's been around for a while. But the biology of belief and how beliefs bear upon biology, and how biology bears upon our belief system, and of course in Chinese medicine and ancient paradigms, medical paradigms. Medicine paradigms, that notion between mind and body, that connection has been talked about and explored deeply. It's an abstract idea to many, but it's real, and there's science to support it beyond philosophy.
Well, no, in ranger training and officer survival training, one of the things they tell you, just because you got shot doesn't mean you're going to die. And and they keep on instilling that into your mind so you can keep up the fight and keep on going. And one of the things is that they were able to prove that in a shootout in Miami, so in the 80s, that these Rangers, the guy took a bullet to the heart and was able to continue fighting for almost 5 to 7 minutes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Your mind, the mind is just remarkably powerful. I mean, in terms of pain and whatnot, I'm sure that in your training as a naturopathic physician, I don't know how much they discuss that, or if you what you have experienced in patients or in clinical work, or in your just general experience or own personal experience.
There is a little bit of training in mind-body medicine. A lot of that is elective, and I think it should actually, given now what we're learning about what a profound difference it makes, again, on the cellular level, at the level of our DNA, I think it should actually be a greater part of the course material. And, I mean, it's true that some of this, in terms of attitude, is hardwiring, and it's not a matter of being Pollyanna about things, but we can absolutely change our perceptions, and it changes our health.
Mm-hmm. Our beliefs about aging, our beliefs about the nature of existence, the nature of life, our beliefs are very powerful. They influence behavior. That's an inextricable connection. Beliefs and behavior, beliefs and biology. It's all intriguing to me. We come back. Dr. Ram alluded to telomeres. Speaking of genes, they're connected to genes. She will explain. If I had to guess, she's going to talk about, because I haven't discussed this with her before going on air, these telomeres. There is one giant risk factor for them, and it starts with the letter I. Maybe you'll figure it out. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition. Here's the number to call. I'd love for you to call and connect.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255. Or locally, or anywhere in the sound of my voice at 813-636-8255.
Nothing more disturbing than when you sit down to talk to somebody and they won't talk to you. Call me. Talk to me.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce exclusively on Amazon.com.
Kate Roham is my guest today. Dr. Kate is an educator for Natural Factors. Dr. Kate, welcome back to the show. You alluded to telomeres, so I presume you want to talk about them. I would just say to the audience that there are any number of theories of aging, scores of theories of aging, if not hundreds, and whether it's cellular senescence, it can be DNA damage theory, and then telomere shortening or telomere theory of aging. There's science that surrounds and this conversation. So telomeres, what's on your mind about the telomeres?
Well, you're right. There are a number of theories around aging, or rather ways we can measure the aging process itself. And telomeres is one that I find to be really useful. There's lots of good research being done on this with quite interesting and consistent results in terms of its gauge as a measure of our biological clock. So, all of our DNA, of course, in our body is packed, and every single cell is packaged into chromosomes, because DNA is really long material, so it's wound up and packed into chromosomes. And essentially what sort of is thought to keep those chromosomes from unraveling, so to speak, are telomeres. These are the little ends on the extreme ends of the chromosomes, and they're often likened to the caps, the plastic caps on the ends of your shoelace. And when that little plastic cap falls off, then the shoelace will start to unravel. And the length of these caps can be measured, and this is considered to be a good measure of your biological age. So the longer the telomeres, the better. And the shorter the telomeres, the higher the biological age, so the older you are relative to your chronological age. And that means the earlier onset of and typically decreased survival from any number of age-related conditions. And the really good news is that if your telomeres are short or shortening or too short, you can make them longer. And with a lot of relatively simple nutrition and lifestyle tips, you can actually lengthen your telomeres and get younger.
Sign me up. Just to expand upon what Dr. Kate was talking about, the telomeres are a metaphor it's often used. They are like these plastic caps on a shoestring. They protect the chromosomes and prevent them from fusing into rings or binding with other DNA. And during cell division, this is when telomeres become really important. Every time your cells divide, the DNA unwraps. It unwraps and uncoils, and the information in the DNA is copied and create daughter cells, what are called daughter cells. The process, however, doesn't copy everything. It doesn't copy the DNA, all DNA information, and the telomeres are not copied, by the way. When the cell is finished dividing, the DNA comes back together, coils back, and each time that happens, the telomeres, as Dr. Kate was alluding to, lose a little bit of their length every time the cells divide. And the theory is that as they keep shortening and they get too short, then they lose their ability to protect, and this is a consequence of aging, and you pass away. But you're talking about telomere biogenesis, and so what do you have to do? Water them every day? How do you make them grow?
Well, there's certain things we do that make them shorter, and there's other things we do that make them grow. For example, exercise will make your telomeres grow, and it helps to protect them, as well as you can increase. Studies have shown where they've done typically interval training, 30 minutes a day of 3 minutes going, pretty fast, and then 3 minutes of a brisk stroll, that kind of thing, for about 30 minutes, not a lot, and following people for a few months and showing that it can increase their telomeres. So exercise is one thing. Eating more essential fatty acids, omega-3s, higher intake of omega-3s is associated with longer telomeres. Perception. So this is, what you got me thinking about the telomeres to begin with, because there's studies that show your perception of stress and your mindset about the stress in your life can affect the rate at which you're aging, can affect the length of your telomeres. So these are some of the things we can do by improving our perception to lengthen our telomeres.
So there, what Dr. Kate is suggesting here is that there are actual environmental things that people engage in that can um, extend life or shorten life generally, but specifically here with respect to telomeres. Not enough sleep and rest, high stress, lots of alcohol, smoking, and so on, cause DNA damage. And the telomeres, are not necessarily free from that damage either. They're connected to the chromosomes. So, and then the other things that she's suggesting too. In theory, if you could keep the telomeres from shortening to the point where you no longer get into cellular senescence, you could live for a very, very long time, but other things will take you out. So you're saying fish oil is one that contributes to...
High intake of omega-3 is absolutely associated with longer telomeres. That is one that's important, as well as antioxidants. They're important, and increase fiber. And, before the break, you sort of alluded to a big risk factor and something that's really connected to telomeres that starts with I, and of course that's inflammation.
Inflammation is, I thought you would go there.
Yeah, and I will, because there's an interesting connection. Yes, we know that inflammation is associated with a faster rate of aging, but the interesting thing is that the aging process itself seems to cause and promote inflammation. And so then it sounds like, a chicken and an egg scenario. Where do you start? But the good news is, if you can combat inflammation, then you can combat some of the effects of aging, as well as potentially slow the aging process itself.
In my research and in my writing, on this one project that I've been into for a good while, when you start to think about and talk about aging, some writers, some scientists, some practitioners view aging as a disease process. In fact, when you look at various conceptualizations, definitions, and perspectives on aging, you will see that it gets construed as a disease process. Then there are a group of others who just the opposite. They don't see it as a disease process. And that's an interesting debate. One tends to be more optimistic than the other, but of course you don't want to get Pollyanna about it. It just so happens that as we age, things happen, right? Is it the aging that's causing that heart disease? Or is it the heart disease that's causing the aging, accelerating the aging? What's that connection, for example? And then there's cancer and all these other diseases. So is it a disease process or not? They debate that. Come back, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Kate. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition. We are coast to coast, and we are global. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in today, stopping by. We're so glad you did that, and we're happy to be here. Dr. Kate Roham is my guest today, and she always has something on her mind to share. And we were talking about aging in the first portion of our conversation today, and more specifically, looking at the telomere theory of aging. The telomeres, the caps on the end of your chromosomes that keep the DNA from unwinding and binding to other DNA, coiling around other DNA and whatnot. And when cells divide, cell division, the theory is that these telomeres, and there's empirical evidence to show this too, shorten. In theory, as they shorten and shorten, they get to a point where they can no longer protect the DNA inside the chromosome. And then you get trouble in River City, right? Now, there's research to suggest that you can lengthen those telomeres. Well, that's some good news. And all this business about aging, old age and aging, right? It's your attitudes. I was talking about Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, and ageism, how you think. It's interesting. How you think about aging will influence how you age, as the theory goes.
I'm not scared of getting old. I'm not. I'm scared of getting old and not being able to do anything with my life, not having a quality of life as I get older.
And that's why Alzheimer's, for example, is so feared. People say, I would rather not exist than suffer that form of dementia, or dementia generally. I've used this quote before. I won't tell you who it is initially. The quote is a little lengthy, but I gave a talk. I was a featured speaker, and I gave a talk entitled Successful Aging, Getting to Life Expectancy and Beyond in One Piece, was the title of my presentation. And I opened with this quote. Quote, the fact is that when I come to think it over, I find that there are 4 reasons for old age being thought unhappy. First, that it withdraws us from active employments. Second, that it enfeebles the body. Third, that it deprives us of nearly all physical pleasures. Fourth, it is the next step to death. Close quote. Is that what you were talking about, Gary?
Yes.
So who do you think? I asked the audience that night. And the room was full. There were several hundred people in the room, 400 or 500 people, whatever it was. And I said, who do you think said that? Was it the U.S. Surgeon General? Was it Dr. Mehmet Oz? Was it Jack LaLanne? Was it Cicero, the philosopher? Or was it Richard Simmons? And amazingly, not very many knew who said that. And it was Cicero, the ancient philosopher, Greek Roman philosopher, right? Amazing, the thoughtfulness of that. I mean, that's a sort of a dark, and that's, many people think of old age, that's why it makes them unhappy. And I get that. But again, how you think and believe, what you believe about aging will influence, and many say, how you age. Ask Bruce Lipton that question. He wrote the book, Biology of Belief. My guest today is Dr. Kate. She suggested that, she also subscribes to that notion. How you think is how you will influence how you age. And how you age will influence how you think about things too. Right? So we're going to explore that today, and there's a culprit involved in all of this. When you look at the various theories of aging, as I told you, there are scores, if not hundreds of them. At least my independent review of the literature tells me that. Inflammation is almost like an overarching theme. It is. And it's a consequence of aging. It's a consequence of a lot of things. It's a friend and a foe. Dr. Kate is an educator for Natural Factors. Dr. Kate, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. Inflammation is ultimately the mechanism by which, when things are not good for us, or things are contributing to aging or problems like stress or lack of exercise or anything you can imagine, the mechanism is inflammation. And so, yes, we want to address what's causing it, but we can also address the inflammation itself, and that's powerful. It gives us different ways of dealing with a variety of chronic ailments.
It's so when you my internist, Dr. McElwain, is also a rheumatologist. He's been a guest on my show many times, and of course, in his practice as a rheumatologist, he's dealing with patients suffering from rheumatoid arthritis and many of these autoimmune diseases. Inflammation is on the agenda every day, and we've discussed it at length. And it's not so easy. It catches many unaware. That they're not even aware until it hits, and then they start to notice the pain. The first sign is the pain. And it's not so easy to manage and not so easy to get under, for lack of a better term, control, right? Not that easy.
Right. And that said, and that can be life-changing, because it can really affect the quality of life. And the painful conditions, that's the inflammation that you know about. But you can have inflammation that is not painful, that's silent inflammation, that can be affecting, for example, the brain, that can affect cognitive function. And that to me is in a way sneakier, because you just you don't know it's there.
Like, would heart disease be the classic example?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And cancer too.
Yes, that's right. That's another example of painless, silent inflammation that can be progressing as it goes along before it produces any symptoms.
And it can be it can deform the body. People who are suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, I mean, it's not only crippling, but it's insidious in how it deforms the hands and other parts of the body. It's just terrible. What the destruction to the joints. It's horrible. And you try. There's a lot of drugs out there, pharmaceuticals that are in play, but there are also nutraceuticals and that to help manage the inflammation. I'm sure you have a constellation of them in mind, right, Dr. Kate?
I absolutely do. We know omega-3s are incredibly helpful in terms of natural anti-inflammatories, and they form the basis of balancing our inflammation response, and so that is important. A number of antioxidants, but again, one of my favorites, and we know it's a well-known antioxidant, and arguably, Mother Nature's best, if certainly one of the best anti-inflammatories, natural anti-inflammatories, of course, is curcumin. And it's getting a lot of attention. There's a lot of research being done around it, and people are aware of it and have heard of it for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Theracurmin is the product from Natural Factors, yes?
That's right. That's right. With all of the research and interest in curcumin, there, things being done in a laboratory that were astounding and really promising, and then having that research move into clinical trials, and then not seeing the kinds of results that were expected. This is when researchers realized that people simply don't absorb very much curcumin, not to the level. You can get a little bit of benefit from taking it orally or having it in your diet, but not to the levels of the benefits that had been seen in the laboratory work. And so then the race was on to modify curcumins in different ways to make it more absorbable. So there are a number of products on the market of either standard curcumin or curcumin has been changed in some way to make it more absorbable. But Theracurmin has the most published clinical trials behind it of any form of curcumin on the market.
And we'll get into that today, that system that they have developed to make it more bioavailable. The truth be told, old age and aging make people more than unhappy, in that quote from Cicero that I just mentioned a moment ago. In fact, old age strikes fear into the hearts of many people. It conjures up images of an old person risen with decrepitude. It doesn't have to be that way.
Almost 52% of men experience erectile dysfunction and benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you've had challenges with virility, sexual health, or low energy, Body Vigor's Alpha Extension may be the answer for you. Body Vigor's Alpha Extension can help revitalize your alpha male and extend your love. Our formula is one of the highest quality nutraceuticals available, formulated to support the processes involved in promoting a healthy male sex drive, energy, and stamina. Alpha Extension has 2 powerful herbal blends: Virilomax, which focuses on male sexual health, and T-Pump Activator, which helps balance your testosterone levels. Revitalize your alpha male with Body Vigor's Alpha Extension. Exclusively available on Amazon.com.
Since time immemorial, there's been this quest for immortality and eternal youth. There are projects all over the place right now. Scientists working, looking for immortality and eternal youth, and trying to outwit and defeat death, let me be blunt, and to remain youthful throughout an immortal existence. We see this in movies, and usually you make a deal with the devil or a vampire or whatever, But it's interesting how that theme weaves its way into our culture in entertainment and in philosophy, religion. This transition from seeking immortality and eternal youth, how about just trying to live and stay younger longer with quality of life? There are things that you can do, and that's what we're talking about today. Managing inflammation is one of the key strategies. I've talked about it for years on this show. Dr. Kate Rome is my guest today, and you were mentioning curcumin, and Natural Factors has a product called Theracurmin, and you mentioned that curcumin molecule is a big molecule, and for years it was on the market, sold by different companies, and it wasn't having very much of an effect because it wasn't bioavailable to the cell, right, Dr. Kate?
Exactly right. You just simply could not absorb. And they've done studies where you give people grams and grams, heaping scoops of this stuff, and the blood levels just don't change. And so you won't get, you can get a little bit of benefits. You'll get a little bit of antioxidant. You'll get a little bit of something from that. But the major benefits, the brain benefits, if you're looking at managing painful conditions, arthritis, these kinds of things, you're just not going to get that with the oral absorption, the standard forms of curcumin, as well as a lot of the very well-meaning but recommended suggestions to say, sprinkle turmeric on your food or drink turmeric tea. That's nice. That's wonderful to do that. But it won't give you the kinds of benefits that are being seen in the clinical trials with professional-grade curcumin product, and Theracurmin in particular.
Mm-hmm. Just so people know, curcumin is bright yellow. Let me grab one of my packets here. In fact, I have Theracurmin in this bag. In this bag, there's some yellow capsules. That's the Theracurmin. It's a yellow chemical produced by some plants, and it's the principal curcuminoid of turmeric. So you know.
I just want to point out that you actually have the product.
It's in there. It is
that we talking about with you.
So I take it.
You take it. So it's not like you're not talking about something that you don't use.
Yeah. I didn't book Dr. Kate. The office booked her, and so I brought my bags of stuff today, and it's there it is. Little tiny capsule. I do 5 a day. They have it. Yeah, you can get extra strength if you like. So what did Natural Factors do to make this more bioavailable to the body?
Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's a process of grinding down the curcumin particle to a very, very tiny particle. You have to mix this. In order for this to work, you have to mix this with something called gum gati. It's a vegetable-based gum, and what this does is it stabilizes the curcumin so that when you grind it down, it doesn't clump back up together, and the individual particles will stay individual, and this dramatically increases the absorption. So with a relatively small amount of the curcumin powder, for example, you can get blood levels that are high and consistently high, and this is where the clinical work really took off in being able to see consistent results.
What was the name of that gum? It wasn't Wrigley's. What was that gum that you were... What was the gum that you mentioned?
Gum gati. It's a vegetable gum from the gati tree. It's a traditional Indian vegetable gum.
Can you spell gati?
Ghattti, I believe, is the correct spelling on that.
Gary will look it up. Gum gati. All right. So it gets the curcumin gets pulverized, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's put through a wet mill grinder and essentially ground down to a very tiny size particle.
That's one form. That's one delivery. Now I know that product, the clinical trials to show its safety and efficacy. I believe MD Anderson they were using that in some trials too. Yeah.
They're using this in more and more clinical trials ongoing because researchers are realizing this is the form of curcumin that will give you very consistent results. A trial that came out very recently is one showing brain benefits among adults, long-term studies, 18-month study, of adults without dementia. So previously we've seen benefits for adults with dementia, but this is groups of people between, the test subjects between 15 and 80 years old, showing that over an 18-month period there was an increase of 28% in memory as well as PET scans, brain scans showed less accumulation of the plaques and tangles in the regions modulating mood and memory. Oh yeah, that's right. It's in addition to those brain benefits, there seems to be a number of trials that point to mood benefits for Theracurmin.
It's all good. 877-897-8255. That's a toll-free number. Call wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing, you just pick up a phone and call us, or send us an email. Gary tells you all the ways to do that. And we enjoy it when you do that, because I know many of you have questions, but you're a little shy. Not to worry. This is listener friendly. We're not rude. We don't do that around here. No shock jock kind of approach. Dr. Kate Roham is my guest. She's a naturopathic physician, educator for natural factors. Did you say you're not going to Expo West? I think you told me that last time. You're not going.
I'm not. I didn't know if I was or not for sure, and I'm not now this time.
Yeah, you're busy.
I'm overbooked.
You're busy. Yeah,
I am.
I know. Well, that's a good thing. Well, it's too bad. We were hoping we'd get a chance to meet you in person, but that's okay.
That's the Gumgotti.
Is that it?
Yeah.
We're showing a picture of that, an image of that. Curcumin. Theracurmin. You want to get that Theracurmin into your body.
Are your joints feeling out of date and stiff? Is that old sports injury flaring up? Is your body aching from the daily wear and tear at work? Body Vigor's Joint Ready keeps you at the ready for any joint pain that gets out of line. Unfortunately, as we age, joint pain becomes more common. Body Vigor's Joint Ready can help provide relief so you can continue to go about your day. Our formula contains sulfated forms of glucosamine and chondroitin. Studies show that these sulfated forms are more effective than regular glucosamine bound to hydrochloride. Joint Ready promotes a healthy inflammatory response, facilitates cartilage synthesis, and provides additional antioxidants. Keep your joints at the ready with Body Vigor's Joint Ready, exclusively on Amazon.com.
Aging and inflammation, they often go in the same sentence. And I guess that's good news, bad news, I don't know. But at least we know one of the primary variables, one of the major factors involved in the aging process is inflammation. Out of control inflammation, that is. And we are trying to find ways to help us to age more successfully. Now, there are a variety of theories of aging: biological theories, psychological theories, sociological, anthropological theories, evolutionary type of theories. It's really amazing how we have thought about and theorized and then from a clinical perspective try to do something about this process. We want to delay death, we want to defeat disease, and we want to defer the decline of youthful looks. People are working at that all the time in their own ways, and sometimes with good thought and good ideas, other times not so much. So hopefully we're contributing to the conversation where you can at least defer the decline of your youthful looks and age more successfully, at least in that regard, or, delay disease processes. It is inevitable, no doubt. But how you get there is important. My guest is Dr. Kate Roham, and she's, as I said and mentioned, an educator for natural factors. What do you worry most about relative to aging, Dr. Kate? What causes you concern?
Maintaining cognitive function, because my dad did have Alzheimer's, and I saw that process, up front and close hand, and so it's maintaining my brain power, memory, and cognitive function is the main thing for me.
One of the things that is quite noticeable when you walk into a nursing home, pick one at random, I don't care, any part of the country, Midwest, Southeast, I don't care. Invariably, what you will see is most people are not ambulant. They're in wheelchairs. They can't walk. Okay? They can't walk for a variety of reasons. Make no mistake about it. Inflammation is, when you see that, you know for sure that inflammation is in play. They can't walk for a variety of different reasons, and inflammation is contributing to that, whether it's arthritis, whether it's a weakened heart, whatever it might be. So, that's managing of inflammation. And curcumin and TheraCurmin, the product from Natural Factors, is a good one. You also you have your whole Earth and Sea line, right, of supplements too, and you have fish oil in there, and you have omega-3s and fish oil outside that line, you've done that for years.
Oh, yes, absolutely. A number of different types of fish oils. The RX omega-3 is a key one with high purity and potency, and so, for people who are looking to get, which everybody really needs to, those omega-3s in to regulate the inflammation, there are good options there, as well as, you're right, in the whole Earth and Sea line. And this, by the way, is a question that I get a lot when people say, well, I'm vegetarian or vegan or allergic to fish. Less common, but mostly for people following plant-based diets. How do I get these omega-3s? And we want the long-chain omega-3s associated with, it's the same type you'd get from fish, and this is what the body uses, and they are available in the whole Earth and Sea line in a product called Marine Algae 3, and it's a plant-based and algae-based or algae-produced omega-3s, identical to the ones you'd get from fish, but they are, in fact, fish-free, suitable for vegans as well as people with fish allergies.
Mm-hmm. So you could take, you have your omega-3s, you have the TheraCurmin that you can take as dietary supplements. What else do you have a antioxidant? Those are antioxidants, but do you have like an antioxidant product?
Well, we do, but the studies are really conclusive. When you look at, for example, the telomere marker of biological aging, that increased fiber is associated with a slower rate of aging.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Illuminate that a little bit. You got my curiosity piqued.
Yeah, it's absolutely conclusive. People who eat more fiber age slower. They have longer telomeres, and which means later onset of chronic conditions that we associate with age. And there are a number of reasons for this. Of course, we know that fiber feeds the healthy bacteria in our intestines, and that is likely has the biggest impact on our health. But fiber doesn't contain any calories, but it helps you feel full and satisfied. So it helps to reduce your caloric intake, which we know is also associated with slower rate of aging. So, encouraging people to eat more whole vegetables, the green leafies in particular, as well as the nuts and seeds, in whatever form you can get that fiber in, and PGX. Sprinkling a little bit of that on your food here and there goes a long way to boosting your fiber intake in a very easy way.
There was a study it was published in 2010. It was in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. The title on the study was Associations Between Diet, Lifestyle Factors, and Telomere Length in Women. And they talk about fiber in the study. Could it also be, too, that fiber is connected to plants, and the plants are just so rich in these compounds, these antioxidants and whatnot, that would contribute to more successful aging, yeah?
That's a really good concept, theory, and idea, and I would hope that they tease that out in the studies, but you're absolutely right. When we're eating more fruits and vegetables, you're getting more antioxidants. And so how to separate that from just fiber itself, and maybe we don't even need to bother, but that could be a factor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stick with the plants. I saw you looking at me, or I sensed you were. Did you have a question or comment, Gary?
Well, because, telomeres, the whole thing with the telomeres and aging and stuff like that, no matter what you do, you're going to age. Okay?
Inevitably.
Okay, no matter what.
No matter what.
And this is something that's real simple to do, and I've never thought about the whole fiber concept. And it
can play a role. In this case, in the way that Dr. Kate is suggesting, you're right. We are going to age. The bad news is that biology of aging is an unsolved mystery of science. We haven't figured that out completely, Death is still a biological inevitability. Lifespan is finite. There are no groups of people who live to or beyond the expected maximum lifespan of 120 years. Not one group on the planet. And of more than 6 billion people on the planet, there are only a handful that are 110 years of age. A handful. 25, 30, or something like that. Very small group. What does that tell you? That's the bad news. Come back, I'll tell you some good news, and we'll have the LTN health question of the day.
Are your joints feeling out of date and stiff? Is that old sports injury flaring up? Is your body aching from the daily wear and tear at work? Bodyfigures Joint Ready keeps you at the ready for any joint pain that gets out of line. Unfortunately, as we age, joint pain becomes more common. Bodyfigures Joint Ready can help provide relief so you can continue to go about your day. Our formula contains sulfated forms of glucosamine and chondroitin. Studies show that these sulfated forms are more effective than regular glucosamine bound to hydrochloride. Joint Ready promotes a healthy inflammatory response, facilitates cartilage synthesis, and provides additional antioxidants. Keep your joints at the ready with Bodyfigures Joint Ready, exclusively on Amazon.com.
The LTN health question of the day. Earlier, I just a moment ago, I gave you the bad news about aging. There's some good news. We know that we can alter life expectancy and maximum lifespan. We can do that. We can postpone and reverse processes, biological processes. We've done that. Disease is not necessarily genetically pre-programmed. We know that too. Here's the question. Now, there are varying statistics on this, but generally speaking, what percent of aging is accounted for by genetics? 25%, 50%, or 75%? What percent of aging is accounted for by genetics? 25%, 50%, or 75%? Here's the number to call. If you get the right answer, you win a $25 supplement gift card from Vitamin Discount Center.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255. Or anywhere in the sound of my voice at 813-636-8255.
I'll give you a hint. You have more influence over your destiny than you think you do. That's where lifestyle comes in. Dr. Kate, welcome back. So in aging, you worry a lot about cognitive health, cognitive decline. What about your looks? You don't worry about that?
Well, of course, we all do, right? There's no doubt about that.
You don't look in the mirror, you don't care.
Nope, can't say I'm immune to that.
No mirrors in the house. That's a lot on people's mind. I mean, my Lord, billions of dollars are spent in the cosmetic industry every year. In cosmetics, trying to slow the aging process, look more youthful, and then you got, of course, plastic surgery and whatnot, and then there are nutraceuticals too. But trying to do it from the inside out is a good idea. Keeping that inflammation low would help slow down aging and doing less cellular damage over time, right? It makes sense, yeah?
Absolutely, and that is the good news, is because all the things that are ultimately good for our looks as we age are good for things on the inside, or maybe that's why they're good for our looks, because you can see the health from the outside, the omega-3s, in particular, the antioxidants, even the thiocurcumin, for example, has been shown to be associated with reduced age spots on the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it is about the health that you can see, beauty from within, and the health that comes and radiates from the inside.
Yeah, well, we're showing an image. We have an image of you on the screen as you're talking, and you look pretty youthful there. Yeah. What was that? What was that laugh?
That's good.
It's good. Of course it's good.
I'm just wondering when the picture's from, yeah.
I don't think it was your college grad. I don't think it was when you graduated from high school. It was a little later, but not too bad.
Well, one of the biggest compliments people can give you, and people have given me, is when they see me in person, say, "Oh, you look just like your headshot." I'm like, well, I'm having a good day then.
Absolutely. Let's go to Lutz, Florida. I know where that is. Ronald is there. You had a question, Ronald.
Yes, doctor. I've had prostate cancer. I contracted it back in early 2011, and about 2 years ago, I had to stop going to the gym because noticed my muscles were not recovering from workouts and getting worse and worse. And within probably the last 9 months, I've got to the point now that I've got so much pain that I'm on all kind of narcotics. I'm taking morphine and gabapentin and baclofen, and I got to take Zolpidem to sleep. And I got knee pain and ankle pain and neuropathy burning in my feet.
So have they identified? I mean, what's the diagnosis there?
Well, doctors won't say it, but I've narrowed it down to the side effects of my cancer drug that I'm taking, like a Casodex. Actually, by Cumulide is what I'm taking, which is Casodex. And some of the side effects of that is muscles aches, pain, and joint pain. Yeah. And I've got all of that, and neuropathy.
I understand. No, I get it. There's a dilemma there. And the question becomes, do you take anything to moderate the side effects of the drug, or do you let the drug alone and don't take anything and let the drug do what it's supposed to do? That's an interesting dilemma cancer patients have to face when they're doing chemo, for example, or radiation. Antioxidants or anti-inflammatory drugs they're trying to counter the side effects of the chemo or the drug, whatever drug you're taking. Some doctors say, well, it's undermining the effectiveness of the drug. You have any thoughts about that, Dr. Kate?
I agree there is a dilemma there. And there's also still, no matter what, room for example, an anti-inflammatory diet, an elimination diet that takes out all of the common inflammatory components like gluten, like processed oils, and puts in more of the green leafy veggies, more of the omega-3s. There's still room for that, and that can be useful in and of itself, and it won't interfere with the treatment.
Yeah, Ronald, there's a lot of information. Dr. Michael Greger is one person that you might read. Go to nutritionfacts.org. He does address this issue. There's a lot of literature on anti-cancer diets, which are really anti-inflammatory types of diets. When you start to introduce different supplements into your protocol, you need to tell your physician, because your physician may have other ideas, but you need to tell them, and you should never stop taking your medications. I know the struggle that you're having. It's just very It can be very discouraging because you want to do things and you can't. And I get it. I wish you would call me back. We're out of time. You promise you'll call me back again and we'll talk about it some more?
I'll try to call tomorrow.
All right, good.
We'll listen to it on a regular basis, but a lot of times you give your number so fast that people can't pick it up. I think that's part of your problem.
We'll try to we'll slow that down. 877-897-8255. Gene in St. Pete, what's the answer?
25%.
Yeah, roughly. Some have it as high as 40% that genetics will account for the variance in aging, but 25%, 75%, some experts say, is lifestyle. So much of your destiny, the point is, much of one's destiny is in their hands, more or less.
We like to blame it on genetics.
Yeah. Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, where your health is your wealth.
Have you discovered